Your grandfather represented a lot to many people, but now you're starting to see statues being torn down in certain countries, or from the personal feeling that it was your grandfather. Surely that must affect you, that must impact you and the family. Welcome to the Global Indian Podcast, the world's greatest journey and the official platform for people of Indian origin. Because let's face it, we are everywhere. Welcome back to The Voyage. This is Season 2. Episode 1 of a 3-part special, and this is the third part, the finale. A fantastic conversation with a truly remarkable individual, Ela Gandhi. As you know, this podcast is hosted by our Global Indian Ambassador, Rajesh Gopie, in South Africa, and has been supported by our dear friends at shareme.com, the app for all your beauty, fitness, and wellness needs. Now, you already know about me, and I am sure you have listened to the last 2 episodes. So let me run you through what you can hear in part 3 of this incredible conversation. In this part, we look at the Indian struggle for South Africa's independence. We look at the emerging politics that surround racial identity and perceived nationalism, the changing face of India, and the shifting legacy of Ela's grandfather, the great Mahatma Gandhi. It's a very open, honest conversation that plunges very deep into the heart and soul of a woman who has spent over 80 years to the day in activism for the globe. I really hope you enjoy this session, and you can find out more about the Global Indian Podcast at the end of the
Get up and just move. 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 Get up and just.
I have a question around, you know, there were a lot of Indian activists, South African born Indian, you know, of India, born here, who contributed to the struggle, yourself included, Dr. Dalu, Dr. Naika, and many more. And many served in prison with Nelson Mandela and so forth. So they've been really important in the struggle, especially around, your dad included, around the creation of the Freedom Charter and a desire for a non-racial society. But presently, do you think that the contribution of these stalwarts have been honored in the new kind of politician that is emerging out of South Africa, especially around the notions of racial identity and who is South African and who isn't? In particular, I'm mentioning people like Mr. Malema, who was very vocal in his stance against Indians being included in important positions in government, etc. How do you feel about that?
I think, people use racism as a means to get what they want at different times. The nationalist government used racism to keep their position in power at that time. In the same way, people like Mr. Malema and others use racism for their own particular reasons, whatever the reasons are, at different times. So that is the use of racism. But what you see in the community and around us is that, because South Africa has come out through a very racialized society. Now, racism and racialized society, I would say, are two different things. When I say racialized society, I'm talking about the way we were brought up in terms of where we lived, the schools we went to, the social groups that we interacted with. Unfortunately, all that was racialized. So, for instance, I went to a school that was only for Indians, and my school friends are only Indians because unfortunately African people were not allowed in that school. And school friendship is a strong friendship. Like I still cherish my school friends, both
Right.
from primary school and high school. We keep in touch. We meet often, and we have a very strong relationship. And I think most people cherish that school time relationships that people have that helped
Yeah.
over the years.
Right.
So that is the racialized society that we are living in. And
Right.
it somehow influences the way we think, the way we behave, and so on. So you find that racialism exists in all communities in South Africa.
Right.
And
Ela, going
sorry,
looking back now towards India, having been born here and raised here, lived through the Gandhian principles your whole life, and India seen as the greatest democracy that is able to hold so many people, so many colors, so many hues, so many religions. Yet things have changed a little bit over the last few years. I know you've been, you've spoken out, you've been vocal about it. What are your thoughts about the present situation in India, where minorities are made to feel quite uneasy?
yeah, I think that, again, it's the same story of using racism, casteism, religion, and so on, differences in order to entrench your own position. People
Right.
do this. People do this all over the world. You can see it happening in the US. You can see it happening in other countries where these differences have been used so that politicians can maintain their hegemony. And I think we need to understand that. And, the activist position in all countries is that we rise above these differences. We have to
Right.
begin to understand and to say that how do we now begin to change that narrative? How do we begin to make sure that these kinds of prejudices don't go on and don't become a reality in everybody's life? It can, if we sit down and do nothing about it, it can become a reality for everyone. Everyone would
Right.
think that this is how life is, and we begin to have a prejudiced, that kind of outlook to life.
Right.
And we can see that happening in many other countries where
Mhm.
this kind of differences have been used
Right.
to entrench power. If you
Right.
look at just Israel and Palestine,
Mhm.
to us who are outside Israel and Palestine, how much of difference do you see between a Palestinian and an Israeli? I can't
Exactly.
make out. When I see them, they have the same customs, they look the same,
Right.
they worship the same, way and everything. And yet, there are differences that they are entrenching there in
Mhm.
order to, just subjugate a community, a whole community,
Right.
promote atrocities, extremism in the community, and so on, because this is what prejudice leads to. It
Yeah.
leads to extremism. And
Eleven in
that's why
closing.
we need to
Sorry.
really deal with those issues in a
Right.
way that we eliminate that extremism.
Mm. So what would you say has been your biggest disappointment globally? Because you've had a life that has been incredibly remarkable. You've fought for equality, for justice, but there must be certain instances that you've seen that almost eggs away at one's soul.
Well, the biggest disappointment for me, and the hurtful feeling that I have is when I see our leaders who actually fought for freedom, but becoming corrupt, becoming, sort of using the power that they have now been able to get in order to build up their own empires rather than looking at the community and the community for which we fought. What were the freedom? What was the motivation for us to make all the sacrifices that we made? And, many people lost their lives as a result of the freedom struggle. And today, when we have freedom, what are we doing with that freedom?
Mm-hmm.
Are we making a difference in the life of the people? And I think now, under these present circumstances, people need to begin to think and begin to change their lives. It's not too late to change. Everyone can change. But for change to happen, they have to admit that they made a mistake. And I'm hoping that some of those people who have committed all these, corrupt, acts will actually begin to become remorseful and change. That is what I would like to see happen. But it's very painful to see that. And I think it's not only in South Africa, it has happened all over the world. It's happening in India. It's happened in many parts of the world.
Yourself and the entire family, but coming into you work tirelessly to bring communities together, and also to have a look at this notion of Indianness. What does Indianness mean to you?
Well, for me, a lot of the scriptures are very, very important for me. Just as Gandhiji was inspired by the Gita and some of the, teachings of the Gita, he was inspired by Tolstoy, Ruskin, the Bible, the Quran, and all that as well. But also, learned the basic, fundamental teachings of the Gita, where you renunciate, where you don't expect people to honor you or give you anything because of what you did. You do things because you are supposed to do those things, because it's your calling, because you feel you have to do these things, not because you want anything in return. And that is fundamental. Renunciation is the fundamental teaching of the Gita that I see and that Gandhiji saw. And
you are not entitled to the fruits of your labor. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And to be the change you wish to see. Don't ask other people to change. Change yourself first. Then you can, through your change, through your example, other people will change.
I think it's really unique because we hear that statement and it's almost been so overused but literally understood of how that works. And I think the reality is for yourself, Ella, is you've dedicated your entire life towards instituting positive change, whether it is fighting against domestic violence or setting up new charities, but it's all been aimed at looking at the fragility of that is of the human experience, regardless of race, religion, or any other forms of type of ethnic division. But it says human beings, we deserve more, and to get more, we have to delve into ourselves. One of the questions I really want to ask you is Indianness, or India must mean something to you, I'm assuming. Do you feel that you mean anything to India?
Oh, you know, I have had a lot of sort of experiences which tell me that the Indian people do love me. You know, for instance, getting the Padma Bhushan, and I don't know if I deserve it, but I know that they feel, you know, and they feel that they need to honor me. Ordinary people in India also, you know, talk. I don't know where they get information about me, but they do love me. And I appreciate that there is that kind of love. Everybody wants to be loved by others.
Everybody loves you, Ela Ben. We know that here. We all love you here.
Yeah. So I think that is important for me. But you know, I was so fortunate that I was in India in 1947, August 15th, when I saw the change of government in India, and I saw the Indian flag going up. And for me, that was an important moment of freedom, what freedom means. At the age of 7, to realize that this is what freedom is. And everybody rejoicing, you know, that we are now free. So I was able to appreciate and experience that freedom, which I experienced again in 1994 in South Africa. And so,
Right.
you know, it's something that a sense of patriotism. And we all feel that sense, you know, of belonging to something.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go to India, or even when I see some good things about India, it does make me feel very proud. And I do have that patriotic feeling for India, just as I have for South Africa. And like Nelson Mandela said, you know, that we love India and we love South Africa. But if India and South Africa were to play a game, we would back the South African team. So I feel the same. I feel that, you know, I was born in South Africa. I lived here all my life. I love India, but South Africa is my country, first and foremost. So yeah.
In bringing this to a close, in bringing this to a close, what's so amazing is that you have seen two great nations raise the flag of freedom. You've seen two great nations raise the flag of freedom from, you know, the colonial power or the apartheid power to freedom, India and South Africa. And you're one of the few people alive who've met Gandhiji and Mandela. That's a very, very unique thing to be. Hey, Rajan?
Absolutely.
And to Ela Ben, yeah.
I also met and had some very good memories of Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who is so less known in the world, but was the frontier Gandhi. And
Yes.
I have photographs in his arms, you know, as a little child.
Wow.
So I really cherish that memory as well.
And apparently he cried when Pakistan was created because he never wanted for that to happen.
Yeah. Mm.
Right. Ela Ben, you turn 80 on the 1st of July. That's an incredible, yeah, she has had an incredible life and still very active as a social worker. Still, I know. What have you got? What have you got planned? Is there a party?
No, it's just numbers. Age is just numbers, really. I just thank the Lord for giving me the life He has given me, or she has given me. And that's all I have planned. I don't want a party. I don't want anything, because I think it's not important. It's just a number.
Well,
There's
Ela
a-
G,
Well, if we all looked as good as you do at the age of 80,
It's
I
80.
too will be telling people that it's just a number. But Ellie, can I ask you a personal question? I know that we have asked quite a few. What's the meaning of life to you? Because you've touched many people's lives out there. But how do you interpret it? How do you interpret this fragility of human existence?
Well, I think, I have, over a period of time, learned the whole philosophy of Ubuntu, which is a South African philosophy. Not South African, but an African philosophy. And it says, I am because you are. And I think that is the most important thing for me. If people were not there around me, I would be nothing. So I cherish all those who share my space, all those people around in the world, and whatever I can do to improve their lives, I think it also improves my life.
Wow, that's just an amazing way to end it there. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Ela Ben, for sharing so much with us. Is there anything you'd like to say in ending there, Rajan?
That we always set forth with the series is to delve into the human existence of being a person of Indian origin, not for the fact of Indianness, but just to say, if we were to look at human beings around the globe, can we delve a lot further than just nationalism? And one thing I would love to have found out from yourself, I know that we never spoke about it, was Gandhi represents, your grandfather represented a lot to many people, but now you're starting to see statues being torn down in certain countries, or roads being built in India from people that were essentially involved in the assassination. Apart from the personal feeling that it was your grandfather, surely that must affect you, that must impact you and the family in a way.
Yeah, it does. I feel very, sad to see how people have criticized him, how people have found things to say against him. But I believe in freedom of expression. I think my grandfather would also believe in freedom of expression. I think criticism, especially constructive criticism, is good. It teaches us something. But I think often the criticism that has been labeled against Gandhiji hasn't been constructive. It has been destructive. And again, one begins to wonder, what were the motives? Why did
Exactly.
you want to destroy an image, Criticize by all means. He wasn't a god, he was a human being. And he himself, wrote about, if you read that book, My Experiments with Truth, he will tell you about all the mistakes that he made in his life. And he puts his life, for everyone to see. And he knows that he made mistakes, and he admits that in the future he would make mistakes as well. If you read the forwards to many of the books that he wrote, he said there that he doesn't believe in being consistent. He will change his mind at any time as he sees new things. He would look at things differently and change his mind and express new positions. So, he reserves the right to change his mind. He wrote that in all his forwards.
Mhm.
So, if people want to criticize him, they say things, that's fine. But to be destructive about it, I think is a bit far-fetched. And then you
Yes.
begin to think, why? It's the same as racism, the same as casteism, where people, take this, generalize it, and make it, a thing that you have to destroy.
Yeah.
That is what has happened.
I think it's
Wow.
remarkable. It's like yourself, Ella, the fact that I think it's what Rajesh said right at the beginning. Although your grandfather is there and was an incredible figure, I think the fact that what you've done with your own life, regardless of the surname, is also equally a testament to what this thing called being a human is. The fact that you can see beyond skin, you can see beyond perceptions of religion, but to say actually as a human being, equally as fragile as I, living in this planet, we all owe it to ourselves to be a social custodian for humanity rather than an aggressive version of individualism, i.e., religion or nationality. I think is a voice. I'm really glad that we had the chance to record your voice. And I really hope that this is a series that you'll be part of as well, because it's a movement that we want to create that does get people thinking in a very new way, but in a very collective way to question what is, and more importantly, to question what if. What a remarkable conversation. I am sure you agree. It's just, for me, and I think for everybody else that's been involved in this show, and especially this three-part special, it's just been a privilege to have somebody of the caliber of Ella on the show discussing about the things that really do matter to her, and as a consequence has also remarkably had a huge impact on the world at large. I don't know many people out there that were part and parcel of India's independence as well as South Africa. And she is so incredibly humble and down to earth as well. A great mentor for the Global Indian series, as well as, I believe, one of the great activists that the Globe has seen for a long while. As promised, if you'd like to find out more about the Global Indian series, you can reach us out on social media, on Instagram at the Nazrans, or via YouTube, which you can type in the Global Indian series and you'll see our stuff come up immediately. Now, if you did listen to this on Podbean, make sure you subscribe. It means that you never miss a show and can be kept up to date with all the latest conversations from around the globe. If you listen to it via YouTube, make sure you subscribe as well as download the playlists. We have a range of playlists now, and Ela Gandhi's three-part special is under its own special section. If you've enjoyed this, you will enjoy next week's as well. I can guarantee that. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. And more importantly, thank you for being you. It's been such a terrific journey so far. I am looking forward to having you on for the next show. Until you hear my voice again, I hope all remains well. Take care for now.